Clarissa here. We are back in the Limelight today. It's been a hot minute since we've been live. So excited to be here. As you know, we have a friend of the show that I like to bring on frequently. It is domesticshelters.org, and we're going to be talking with Ashley Rumschlag, as we normally do, about things that we can do to help those that may be in need of our help, those that might be in a difficult situation. But before I do that, I do want to remind you that, and look what I've done. Yay. We want to remind you that the podcast you can see on Apple, Google, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and Podbean. So we're going to be uploading the podcast from this episode as well. And over on Binge Networks, you'll be able to see this video on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Google Play, Dailymotion, and 100 other smart TV apps. I also like to remind everybody that the new magazine has come out today. Let me show you. Yay, it dropped today. It is the Spring 2021 edition with Lady Fiona Carnarvon on the cover. That is the Downton Abbey Castle. She lives in it, so good for her and her husband, Lord Carnarvon. So lovely, another really great episode. You're going to want to get over to pressreader.com so you can read that for free. Just sign up. There's a registration there. Easy enough to do. And of course, my good friends over at my news desk. This is where I put out my news releases and press releases. You're going to want to know about them too, because if you've got a company or a business that you want to make sure that you get in front of journalists all over the world, or even not all over the world, just in a really specified kind of place or state or category, this is where you're going to want to be so that you can keep yourself abreast and keep them abreast of what's happening in your world. So again, my newsdesk.com, really good friends to the show. Ciao, Alfredo. Ciao, a Napoli, a tutta Napoli. Good to see you. And so let's bring her on then. Here she is, everybody. Ashley Rumschlag. She is the VP of Digital Services over at domesticshelters.org. Ashley, so good to see you. I love when you come on because we always have really great informative information for those that may be in very difficult or precarious situations when it comes to being abused and being victims of domestic violence. So we're happy to have you today. And I'm
glad to be here.
Thanks. Over the last year and more now that you and I have been on these live public service announcements that we love to do, especially over COVID year, because a lot of the abusees were at home with the abuser and had really nowhere to go. So we've been keeping them company, letting them know what their alternatives may be, how to create a plan, a blueprint, if you will, on how to move forward and what to and not to do. We've often spoken about what is it you can do if you know of someone that is being abused? And here's the question I guess I have for you. What if you're saying, but listen, let me call the police. Let me get the authorities involved. And the abusee says to you, no, don't, please. You'll only make it worse. Please don't. Please don't. What to do?
Yeah. I mean, and that's absolutely correct. And a very likely response that you'll get from someone that is experiencing some kind of form of abuse is, they do not want you to,
engage
get the police involved. Yeah. And it's coming from a place of, the person who's being abused understands their situation more than anyone. They understand the risks involved. They understand their partner's, tendencies, what sets them off, things of that nature. And so, to have someone that's on the outside looking in, come in and do anything that they can't really control and understand what the ramifications might be is a very scary thing. Yeah. And in some cases, it can be a matter of life and death. So that's why it's so important to reshift how people think about approaching someone who's being abused, and really changing their way of thinking, because it's not intuitive. It's not what your guts tell kind of the complete opposite. It's really just comes down to, and I'll probably say this several times throughout our conversation today, it comes down to listening to that person and telling them that you believe them and that, you're not going anywhere, and whatever whatever your friend or family member or coworker decides to do, you're going to support them and be there for them, because that's really what they need.
Yeah. So being of support, obviously, we know is of great help because, yeah, I do believe you. I do see it. I do possibly even hear it. I've been in the company of the two of you when I see the abuse happening, or
Right.
maybe it's even physically visible, the abuse
Right.
itself.
Right.
At what point would someone say, a friend, family, a neighbor, someone say, you know what? I'm going full in. I'm going to alert the authorities and come what may. Is that a good route to take?
It really, the only time that we would suggest actually involving, basically calling 911, calling the police, is if you physically see that they are being abused, being physically assaulted,
Right.
and because we would never recommend that someone get involved in themselves, because they're at a great risk of being hurt.
Yeah.
So it's when you see that physical abuse happening in the moment, and your friend or family member or coworker, the person that's being abused needs some kind of intervention, and obviously that's really the only time that we would recommend involving the police in that situation, is when they are in immediate danger and you're actually witnessing that happening, not just you think that it's happening.
Right. So what happens if you're witnessing it? Again, you're a neighbor, you're hearing the fighting, the screaming, whatever. There are 1,000 case scenarios here that we could go through. But what if it is, what happens if you are absolutely sure of what you see and what you hear, and the abusee is saying, oh, no, that didn't happen. You didn't see that. You didn't hear that. In other words, she's living in, or I say she, we can also say he,
Right. Yeah.
but mostly we say she is living in denial. What then? What can you do at that point?
Yeah. Many times that people, the person experiencing abuse is going to make excuses for their partner. They're going to say, oh, well, he was drunk, or, he was abused as a child, or it was an accident, things like that. And, making those excuses. And a lot of that it's a coping mechanism, really. It's that person kind of, not being able to really wrap their mind around the reality of what's happening to them. So they're going to minimize that abuse in order to cope with the trauma that they're experiencing. Make it seem as though it's not as bad as really it is.
Right.
They also, they believe and feel that the abuser actually loves them. A lot of that comes from what we call trauma bonding, where, if every time something bad happens to you, the abuser turns around is then the savior of your, either physically or emotional needs.
Right.
You over time build what we call trauma bonding. And essentially, you can't differentiate the bad from the good. You only see them as the knight in shining armor that came to rescue you from the peril that they put you in. And so it's a very, very common thing. And, I see this all the time in our Facebook group. People say, but I love him so much. And I keep, even after they leave the relationship, saying, I just want him back. And it's like, there's this complete distortion of reality that the abuser has really engineered over time that is really, really powerful.
Is it
hard to overcome.
Is that a safety mechanism, really? Is it just sort of a way of saying, well, he doesn't mean it. It's his way of loving me. I deserved it. Again, all of, as you say, all of the different case scenarios that one builds up over time. He's the father of my children. I want to keep my family unit, together.
Very good.
Right? So what then?
It's hard. Yeah. And it really comes down to, there's not a lot you can do. And I know that sounds very it's hard to kind of stomach the idea that you can't come in and save someone from abuse. You can't either, but there are things you can do. Like I said at the beginning, listening is so important. Listening without judgment, without giving what you think they should do. Because that person in that relationship has lost the ability to make decisions and take control of their own life. And so by you coming in and saying, do this, in this order, and call this person and do this, you are essentially taking the place of the abuser and telling them what they should be doing. So slowly and, kind of guiding them in certain ways, but not telling them what to do. is really important. So, listening and really just helping them to process what they, understand what they want to happen. Yeah. And maybe giving suggestions and things of that nature.
Yeah, suggestions is a great word. I think it's better than opinions. I might slide down a slippery slope if it were me and say, because as many times I've said on the show, if it hurts, it isn't love. If it's hurting you, it's not love. And we could be here all day on that. I mean, people that want to be helped want to be helped, and those that don't. So, as we said, it's a slippery slope. And it's something that it's a very, very difficult, it's a difficult call to make as an outsider looking in. I think I know what I would do, but if my friend was or family member was saying to me, listen, please don't, I don't know exactly how I would play that card.
Yeah. You have to just understand, like I said, that the survivor knows what is best for them. And I know it sounds hard when you see them, see that, yes, there is going to be more pain and perhaps more abuse in the future, but they understand what is really going on. They understand things that maybe they're not sharing with you. Maybe the fact that they have a gun in the home and that they don't want to share that because they don't want you to worry. But by you calling the police and getting them involved, that could escalate things to the point where, the abuser feels as though they need to take drastic measures and really escalate things to maintain that power and control.
Let me ask you this. Are there not sort of like witness hotlines that keeps you, anonymous?
Well, it's not even the who's calling, it's the call itself. So it's not so much, certainly that could affect your friendship if they know that you're the person that called. Sure. It's more so what happens once that call is made. If you do need to talk to someone about what you're seeing and experiencing, call the domestic violence hotline and talk to them, because they're not required to call the police in any way. Right. And that number is just 1-800-799-7233, or the last letters are SAFE. So 1-800-799-SAFE. Okay. And that's a 24/7 hotline. You can go to the hotline.org and speak to someone. And then, of course, we always recommend people connect with their local advocates too. So as a friend or family member of someone experiencing abuse, you can reach out to those domestic violence organizations in your local area. And so that would be something you could search for on domesticshelters.org/help. Just search by your location, and you can call those organizations too.
Right. Okay. I've just put that into the ticker below, 1-800-799-SAFE. So good to know. I'll make sure that we have that on every show moving forward. But definitely, that's why we do this show. We want to make sure that people know about domesticshelters.org, that they know that with a phone call, they can get help immediately and potentially and possibly even be in a safe haven or safe place, a safe house by tonight. So again, there are ways of getting out. As I say, on every show, many women have done it before, and many women will do it after you. So there is always a way should you want to get out. Let's talk about the Purple Ribbon Awards coming up. I think by the end of this month, something's happening. I think you're closing down.
Yes. So the Purple Ribbon Awards are in full swing as far as the nomination period goes. That's going to close out at the end of March. So March 31st. Will be the last day that we will accept new nominations. And the beauty of this program is we are just going to, shine a light on the people who are doing amazing work in the domestic violence field. So whether that be the volunteers, the board members, the, of course, the executives and advocates, in addition to, law enforcement partners or legal advocates, people in the community that are doing, awareness campaigns or fundraisers. There's over 30 categories that people can review and, kind of consider who fits into, who works in their community that would fit well into that category. So highly recommend people go over to purpleribonawards.org.
I know, and there's prizes. Yes. I love the prizes part.
Yes. So what we're doing is we will we have $30,000 in grants that we'll be giving out to our top winners, and that will be decided based on our expert panel of judges will score all of the entries, pick category winners, and then from there we're just going to reevaluate all of those top winners based on their impact. Kind of the creme de la creme, the best of the best, and kind of distribute the $30,000.
Like have ever been done before. These are the unsung heroes behind the scenes, in the trenches, doing the work. And I think this is an extraordinary idea. We've been talking about it for quite 4 or 5, maybe 6 months now that we've been talking about it, because it was implemented, I think, somewhere either mid 2020 or a little bit before, possibly.
Yeah, so we announced it around the end of 2020. We've been working on this program for a few years now. We kind of had to hit the brakes a few times, but then 2021.
And now here we are.
And now here we are. Yes, hardly believe it.
So end of the month is good. Now I have on the ticker, again, www.purpleribbanawards.org. If you want to nominate someone, can you nominate yourself?
Absolutely, yes, and I've noticed that already. Yeah, no, we want to be able to spotlight people, and sometimes it may be awkward to ask someone to nominate yourself. You're welcome to go in and nominate yourself. We just want to hear those stories, and we want to learn about the different ways that people are, really just making a difference in their communities. We hear from people as much as we can, especially within our Facebook communities and people via email and articles that we read. In the news, but we really just want to hear directly from people, so that way we can
and I always
share
want to
it with the world.
And I always want to mention your newsletter as well, because I get it just because I want to see what's happening, because we're collaborating, but I'd love to be able to see what's happening. And your newsletter, I think, is one of the finest newsletters I've ever seen come out. The amount of information and really great article, the reading is phenomenal. I suggest that everyone get that newsletter. And again, let's get back to purpleribbanawards.org. That's where you're going to want to go, so that you can go and nominate someone that that has been doing some amazing work behind the scenes for domestic violence. And if you've been doing it, you can nominate yourself. So there you go.
And if it may, I'll just share that the nomination process is really simple. I know we're getting near the end of the month, so people might think, I don't have time to do all this stuff, but it's really simple. It's a matter of a short, I think it's 500 characters or less description, and then just attaching, flyers, photos, videos, all of those different things. So it doesn't have to be a long, 50-page report, on this project. It can be very, very simple overview.
How exciting.
So we make it as easy as possible. That way, anyone can enter.
Very cool. All right. Well, I think that's the show. Again, we do want to remind everybody that it is purpleribbanawards.org, and you certainly want to get over to domesticshelters.org also to sign up for the newsletter, get the information that you need, whether it be you or someone you know. That's why they're there, and that's why we do what we do as often as we do. Ashley, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll be talking to you again soon. We've got another show coming up in another, 10 days, 2 weeks or so. But we'll make sure that we keep it going for you all. Thanks everybody again for being here in the Limelight. We'll see you the next time. Bye now. Thanks for listening to this episode of the In the Limelight podcast, intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur. You can listen to this and all of my podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and Inspired News Radio. You'll find all of my videos and the In the Limelight digital magazine on clarissaburt.com. And don't forget to connect with me on social pretty much anywhere. Stay well until we meet again in the Limelight.